What beliefs about relationship helped you justify your lies?
The most shocking lie I justified was it was all your fault.
When I hear a guy say, well, I didn't want to hurt her, maybe you should have stopped the very thing you knew that would hurt her instead of lying about it.
It was this shell game of morality.
Welcome to The Couple Cure. Here's Jay and Lori Pyatt.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couple Cure podcast. I'm Jay.
I'm Lori. Today's question for Jay is, how did you justify your lies? So the first part of that is, what was your internal dialogue when you were lying?
Just going to jump right into it. My internal dialogue when I was lying was because I had been sober for a period of time. I was thinking, I'm going to get clean tomorrow. I can get this figured out. So I'll get clean tomorrow. So then nobody will ever need to know. Like it'll just be a thing in the past that nobody knows about.
Did it ever occur to you that's not happening?
No, I kept thinking I was like, I just needed to commit a little bit more or figure something out or, again, it's kind of addict thinking, but it was like, I know I'm going to get this figured out. I know that somehow I'm going to get past this and then I'm never going to have to talk about it.
So two questions come up. The first one is, was there ever a moment when you were like, come on, I'm not getting any better? Or like, I don't want to get better?
There might have been a point of, I don't want to get better.
Wow.
Or like, this is kind of acceptable to me. But it was all very kind of situational. Like, no, if I tell Lori I'm going to not use porn, I'm going to try to get clean, even though there was another part of me that was kind of knew that I was just going to use again. If before this moment the sound was crappy, instead of restarting all that over because I wanted it to be authentic, we apologize for the crappy audio. So you had said, if I just put forth more willpower,
Right.
that sort of thing. Was this time more difficult? Or that stretch of time? Yeah, because there was a number of things going on. You were my accountability partner and I was afraid to talk to you. I was lying to you because I didn't want to tell you what was really going on. And I didn't have other accountability partners because everything had shut down.
Really? Okay. See, I thought there was some crossover.
No,
that it wasn't just me you were lying to.
I mean, the lead into all of that is the church had shut down and we stopped meeting as an accountability group. And I started telling you, I started having you as my accountability partner. And then I took my new job,
that new position.
Mm-hmm. And once I took the new position, that's when kind of everything happened.
Okay.
So I didn't have accountability partners or a place to even like get prepared to tell you. And I was traveling. I was on the road with this new job or this new position that took me away at least once a month and had me by myself, and that being alone and not having what we eventually built of staying connected while I was on the road.
Yeah.
So I think it was a lot harder. I felt less
like supported.
Less supported. Plus I was getting this regular trigger of kind of being on my own. I think that's what made it more difficult was some of the other factors involved.
Okay. I think somewhere here you said it became acceptable behavior. Were lies acceptable behavior?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I, for whatever reason, couldn't see another solution. in the moment. And it was like, if I lie about it and you never find out what I did, then
Yep.
no bad things happen.
No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
I'm none the wiser. Okay. Next question. What beliefs about yourself, life, and relationships helped you justify your lies? So you can take them one by one. About what beliefs about yourself help justify your lies?
um, that the lying wasn't impacting me too. That it wasn't making me
Mhm.
dishonorable, or uh, that I didn't have anything to lose by lying was one of the beliefs about me. Whether it was my relationship with you or my own sense of um, decency, my own sense of um, Christianity, I was more in the mindset of this is what I need to do to kind of survive and navigate what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And all those other things were like, I didn't believe they existed for me, or I didn't think they were important for me.
So the porn, you felt like, okay, that's impacting me in some kind of negative spiritual, soul level way. But lying didn't. What about, and what I heard you say was it didn't, it wasn't a dishonorable thing. What about West Point? What you learned there? Because when you
Yeah.
were at West Point, what did they, like, what did they,
Well, I mean, if you lied, you could be put out of the academy. You could lose your position. Yeah. And
really?
if you lied and turned yourself in, then you could get possibly a lesser offense. But in my first year there, I lied 3 times and I got caught in one of them. And after that, I kind of got my act together and figured some of those things out about lying, and why it was important not to. And um, I felt like I was, a pretty honest person until, um, it came to this issue.
Would you, I mean, I know you probably would have said, yes, I'm an honest person, but would you have felt it on the inside?
Mm, you mean like feeling that I was honest on the inside, or?
No, like, yeah, doesn't really matter. This isn't really lying. I mean, I'm kind of trying to dial in on how maybe self-deceived you might have been about in what this meant about you.
Yeah, so much of my active addiction was uh, choosing the kind of the lesser evil
Mm,
kind of thinking. And somehow it was like, well, telling the truth is going to make everything terrible. So lying is, again, it's like uh, the acceptable way to navigate something, um, instead of, coming to you and saying, look, I can't keep having you as an accountability partner, or,
mm-hmm.
it's just some sort of shift, which was not in my nature at that time either.
Yeah,
You know, it was more like, as long as I don't get caught in the lie, then everything's fine.
interesting. Okay. What beliefs did you have about life that helped you justify lying?
Um, I mean, I know that my beliefs have changed, but I don't know that I had a conscious belief about life that justified it, other than, it's just something you do, or it's because I'm trying to fix it, because, I don't want to make
Mm,
things worse, and because I can do these things. And so then it's going to seem to somebody on the outside, it's like, oh, okay, well, you got everything fixed and she never found out. So yeah, that makes that okay,
hmm.
you know, as crazy as that sounds.
So it wasn't like eat, drink, and be merry first, like just like do whatever I can to get away with this because,
No, it um it wasn't like I had no moral compass, but there was like certain things where it was this uh, shell game of morality of, well, this
Mm-hmm.
thing and that thing, and kind of moving all these parts around to make it work.
So we used to lead a youth group. One of the kids was like, he saw it as a scale. You know, you do some good over here, you do some bad over here, and it all evens out as long as it's even. Was it that kind of a thing?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
I knew that wasn't the truth, but I just kind of felt like it was again the lesser, the no harm, no foul kind of wrong because you weren't ever going to find out about it versus telling you the truth and giving you all of the crappy stuff I was doing.
Okay. So you just said you're never going to find out about it, but you had this internal. Was it like a black cloud or gray cloud? Your sins will find you out, or was it like a? Yeah, I don't really believe that.
Um, I believed it from a like, if I don't get this figured out, it is going to catch up with me.
Hmm.
And yet,
Okay.
it was like, I do need to get it figured out, but I don't really want to give it up yet, but I don't, and
Mm-hmm.
so just a lot of internal uh, waffling and self justification and delusion that, it hasn't gotten bad enough yet kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So, what beliefs about relationships helped you justify your lies?
that, and I think this is key that it was the porn that was the problem, not my dishonesty. And telling you about the porn, which I think if I had told you the very first time I found a workaround on my computer, yeah, it would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been D-Day bad,
Yeah.
you know. And and so my understanding of relationships was keeping something from you so that you don't get hurt is not going to hurt you. And the I I don't know if we want to talk about what I know now about this.
Maybe in a bit.
Yeah, so we'll come back to this and we'll talk about what I know about how this impacts relationship now. So
Okay.
at the time I did not see this. I saw like the fight over me going back to porn was not as bad as just lying to you. So somewhere in there, I was, I've done this, and a lot of guys that I've talked to have said this, which is, I don't want to hurt her, and the truth is, you're hurting her. It's just not. It's not in this instant, but it's coming.
When it comes to what you believed about relationships, I thought you were going to say something like people leave anyway.
Oh
People
well,
always leave.
there's that too. That somewhere in there, um, we were not doing great.
We were pretty distant.
Yeah, in 2006. I mean, that's when I got the new position, and it was kind of like, well, we're not that connected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't necessarily really matter that much, or something. I don't know. I It's good that you brought that up, but it's not top of mind in my current thinking, so it's kind of hard to piece back together something that was almost 20 years ago now.
Okay. For those of you listening, I think for some guys that's the case. Some women, I know of one in particular, she was like, "Why isn't he stepping up?" And I'm like, if you look at his history, where his parents were um, kind of in a really, really bad place and didn't have time for him and just kind of left him to raise himself. And it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like he has a great relationship with them now. To him, he might be like, well, people just leave. People have always left me. I've never really had that strong, committed relationship where some strong bonds can build. So that might be something to look at in your own husband's history.
Right.
Does he have anybody he's connected to? If not, it could be he's attachment avoidant. It could be that he doesn't know how to form attachments. It could be that he's addicted, even if he's not acting out with porn. It could be that he's addicted to other things that, like, that's what you go for versus like really diving into relationships with the wife or the children or
Yeah.
other family members.
Well, and something that you mentioned in there that I would speak to as well is, has he ever seen his parents negotiate a bad breakdown, or have they always just kind of like, okay, things are terrible, we're just going to act like nothing happened?
Or did they split up?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if there's anybody in his history that just, especially in a leadership authority role, somebody should have been able to look up to, if they were just like, when things get bad, you just leave the relationship, or
Right.
you completely disengage or something like that. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Next question. And I don't know if this is what you were alluding to, but some addicts say, I lied so she wouldn't get hurt. And you've said that a couple times. Did these two things ever occur to you? First is lying is going to hurt her more, which you've already kind of talked about. Or instead of lying, maybe I should stop doing the thing I know will hurt her. Like give myself a reason to not lie to her.
Right.
Because that to me is, that particular one is always the one that comes to mind when I hear a guy say, well, I didn't want to hurt her. Well, then you shouldn't. Like, if you really, really didn't want to hurt her, maybe you should have stopped the very thing you knew that would hurt her instead of lying about it, which, I mean, if you've listened to us at all, lying is much more impactful in a negative way.
Right. So you gave me two things.
Yeah.
The first one, the idea that I was lying so that I wouldn't hurt you. We talked about this earlier. That is like picking up a stone and holding it higher and higher, and every lie raises that stone up just a little bit higher
Over her head.
over her head, and that's called potential energy. The potential energy of a BB dropped from the top of the Empire State Building will kill a person. So even if you think it's a small thing, if you get that thing high enough, it's going to damage them severely. And that's, the truth of that. But yeah, the idea that somehow all of this will go undiscovered and therefore you won't get hurt is part of the delusion. That's part of the Pollyanna thinking. If you don't know who Pollyanna is, wildly optimistic to the point of delusion.
Like overly optimistic, nothing bad will happen here.
Right. Yeah. That, that if I find a nickel on the sidewalk, that means I'm going to win the lottery kind of thinking. So that overly optimistic thinking, leads to this, okay, she's never going to find out, so it's never going to hurt her. So I'm really not raising a rock above her head, all this other. And it does completely ignore what the scripture says, which your sins will find you out. How long can you scoop hot coals into your lap without getting burned? I mean, there's a few, there's
God
more
hates
than
a
two
lying
scriptures
tongue.
about
Yeah.
this, and it's not it's not because God wants to punish us. It's because he doesn't want us being complicit in hurting other people.
Or alone. You do this to enough people, you're going to be alone. Like, you're going to be
Yeah.
dying a lonely man if you hurt enough people. And lies, like, I've said it before, even the world hates lies.
Right. And so can you redo the first half of that question?
You've said that a couple times. I lied so she wouldn't get hurt. Did it ever occur to you that the lying would be much worse?
No, it
Okay.
didn't. And so, in that delusion, I did not see that rock that I was lifting higher and higher above your head, and the optimism of you never finding out. So no, it didn't really occur to me.
Did it ever occur to you to just stop the very thing?
It did. I mean,
Yeah.
I was kind of trying, um, and it's my primary coping skill when I don't understand how to deal with the world. It was.
Mm-hmm.
It was what I trained myself over and over and over again to do, and I never learned anything different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are much better coping skills.
Ones that actually make you feel good
Right.
long term,
Yeah.
and you can do them again without, all the shame spiral
Right.
afterwards.
And uh, we might have had conversations like that, but I think, I was just talking to a guy yesterday. One of the um recovery programs he went through was you have to believe in the holiness of God, and if you believe in the holiness of God, then you will quit doing this.
Oh, somebody was telling him that.
Yeah. And sadly, the church, when they say connect with God, they're saying prayer and worship and reading the Bible, and they don't really take it to this is how you really do that
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. To really be able to meet with him every day, to where, like, the interaction becomes a two-way street.
Yeah. So, again, going back to the previous episode where I talked about Gollum and the One Ring,
Mm-hmm.
it's I want to quit, I hate this thing, but I also love this thing, and I don't like the other things that this thing, and it's just a uh, ugly, ugly thing in my head
Okay.
that still felt good.
Yeah, that's something I will be going bringing up every now and again. Like, let's not pretend that it doesn't feel good. I mean, like,
Right.
that's um to not bring that up, as like, yeah, I lied because I wanted to keep it. Like, that's a
Yeah.
truth that I think
Yeah.
we all can agree on.
Right.
But the next one is, did you ever feel ashamed by your lying?
Um, I think so. I think that's why, there were a couple of times before D-Day that you kind of asked me a few questions, and I got a little heated about it. And I think that was
Mm.
connected to the like, man, I can't do this. I can't let this out. There's just so much that I'm ashamed of in this that
Hmm.
um, I just need to completely shut down this conversation, and anger was my way of doing that.
Looking back, what was the most shocking lie you justified?
I've said this in my story, but I think the most shocking lie I justified was telling you that it was all your fault.
Yeah.
That to blame you for me choosing to do what I did. Um, it, I mean, I feel bad about the rest of them, but that one was, I say that's the worst lie I told.
Okay. When I was writing that one down, I, I thought that would be your answer, and I appreciate that. I do, because that was a really
We don't use foul
crappy,
language on
yeah,
our
really crappy
podcast.
thing to do. Did spiritual or moral values ever compete with your justifications?
Yes. They competed with it. They always lost, or I would have done something differently. Um, you and I have talked about my spiritual walk was more of a performance or a lot of head knowledge without having that depth of character. When Jesus talks about the four types of soil, one that he talks about is the soil that falls on rocky ground. It doesn't have depth of roots, and so when trials of life come along, they die. And I don't think I had very deep roots.
Okay. Basically, what he's saying is not a whole lot of healthy, effective coping skills.
Right.
I mean,
Well, yeah, or spiritual resource, would yeah, coping
okay.
skill.
Okay. To me they're the same, just because I was a mess when I came to God, and he's from that moment on was the biggest, best coping skill for like coping. Can't say mechanism, but coping being for me. So
Yeah.
earlier you said in a future section we'll cover what you know about how lies are worse. What do you know about that now?
Well, so the first thing is that the potential energy of the stone, right? I'm holding this thing above your head. Um, that's the first element, but what does that really mean? And what that means is that's the betrayal trauma. That's the um, you don't know what reality is. You don't really know who I am. Uh, you don't know what is safe. You don't know what to believe about me. And so that, and then it leads to this place of going back to every conversation that we had, knowing, oh, that wasn't real, and that wasn't real, and that wasn't real. So I've just been living this lie that he drugged me into for years. And so your reality now is infected by my delusion.
One thing to understand is if Jay had confessed every time, I would have just been like, okay, you're not really serious about getting healed or getting sober, so I have a decision to make. When he, the potential energy, each lie, imagine that it's not just he's raising a BB, but that BB is growing. It was like, instead of like letting me know over time, hey, I stumbled today at work, or, I acted out several times on this business trip. Okay, well, let's take back that ground from the enemy. Instead, it felt like all those hits came at once. It's like if each one was a punch to the arm, just imagine, okay, and another time, and another time, and another time. Or not just like all these different times, because it wasn't like you were like, well, on this business trip, it was, and at work, it was this many times. But all the other lies that wasn't even about usage that went into that. But
Yeah.
something, guys, to understand is, and maybe I'll do a nicer one of these. So one thing to understand, guys, is when it comes to the amount of damage, the porn and masturbation, the sexual acting out, is very little compared to the rest of it. Lies are a bigger thing. I've seen women whose husbands do confess to it that don't lie. They're honest about it. They're like, hey, I stumbled again. I'll double up on my recovery efforts or whatever. Those women don't seem to be traumatized. It's the lying and then the everything else. The everything else that's probably going to be a whole other season. We're talking abuse and blame shifting and just horrible conversations and justifications and, the mental games and all that. But the lies are pretty bad. It's these two areas where I start seeing trauma from women. I mean, yeah, it can be up here depending on, maybe what he's gotten into. But these two areas, the lies and the everything else, that's where she really starts becoming more traumatized.
Right. And when you're in an environment where those lies are slowly coming out over time, and every lie leads to a fight because I didn't want to talk about it. Why are we still talking about this? Getting defensive, getting angry, getting intimidating, getting abusive. She didn't feel safe for months and months and months and months. It wasn't just, oh, all this came out in a day and oh, no big deal. This was months, years of my craziness and her not feeling safe, on top of years before D-Day, where she just had this nagging suspicion that something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so,
then I'd ask, and then he'd, no, nothing's.
yeah. So there was, for, most of the people we deal with, D-Day is not the end of it. It's the beginning of
An unraveling
a lot of bad conversations, typically by the time people get to us. So if you just had D-Day, get to us quicker.
or get to
And
somebody quicker.
get to
Yeah.
somebody, because it without help it gets worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do have another thing that I can say, but I think it'll be for another one. I'll have to write it down, but I think we'll wrap it up here because this one's been long. Thank you so much for answering those questions, and thank you for your good sportedness, your willingness to do this. I've gotten a lot of feedback from women going like, keep having him answer those questions. It's so good. For some women, it's bringing up new conversations in their own marriage.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay.
all right, guys.
We'll see everybody on the next episode.
Bye,
Bye now.
y'all. That one was,
Heavy.
yeah, I think just going back to, going back to how many lies there were and just the messiness of it all. And I don't know, it's like, those are some dark days.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Can I punch now? Ooh, can I punch you as much? Can I stand on top of the?
There's a bow and arrow in the
Oh. Spread eagle. Guess that one. Anyway, but I do appreciate you being a good sport about this.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for the. Yeah.
I'm glad you got better.
Yeah, me too.
But if you go back to it, I will be hunting down that bow and arrow. Or you'll just see
Bunny rabbit song.
I'm hunting rabbit. What, that one?